It's time to talk NASCAR on Prime Sports Network as we preview this week's NASCAR Cup Series event. First time at this new racetrack, the World Wide Technology Raceway. Is that what they're calling it?
That is correct.
Where is this? Is this in Madison? Where is this in Illinois? Where? You know?
It's on the border. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've been there. Actually, a bunch of the IndyCar side. It's on right before you get to St. Louis on the Illinois side. I mean, we're talking like an exit or two before you cross the Mississippi. It's right on the right-hand side of the interstate, just kind of tucked in right there. Basically, I always say in the shadows of downtown St. Louis, because right on the other side of the river is downtown St. Louis, and you got the track. So off of turn 4, you can see it off in the distance, the Gateway Arch. So it's East St. Louis area, basically just right on the other side of the border.
All right, now on this show, and we're going to break this down into sections, and you can see that on the bottom of the screen. So because we're going to also recap what happened at the Coke 600. If you don't care about the recap, you can just find the section on the video where we start talking about this week's event in Illinois. So we'll get into all of that. Again, the Illinois, actually, it's the Enjoy Illinois 300. So does that mean that the tourist dollars are going to advertise in this event, or they couldn't find a sponsor, so they're just throwing that logo in there?
No, I'm not sure the specifics behind it, but those guys are good over there about finding sponsors. So it's definitely
probably government dollars or something like that to promote the state and the raceway. Okay.
Probably because everybody assumes this track. You always say St. Louis. Everybody calls it St. Louis, so you think Missouri, and it's in Illinois. So maybe this is Illinois' way to, hey, look, this track's actually in Illinois, guys. So this could be that factor involved. I'm not sure, but I know the guys over there at World Wide Technology Raceway they're geniuses. They're brilliant. They've done a lot to revitalize this really once left for dead racetrack. I mean, this track, they have promoted the hell out of this thing. Probably going to be a sellout if it's not already. So
how many people?
You're going to I know it's over 50,000. Okay. I'm not sure the exact specifics.
Is it one of those racetracks then that they'll be able to sell out, and so you're not going to be driving and seeing empty seats anywhere?
Oh yeah, you won't see empty.
Okay.
They almost sell out. Well, at least the main grandstand on the straightaway for the IndyCar, they've always pretty much sold that out. And then with NASCAR, the anticipation, they open up. Oh. There's a big stand in turn 1 and 2 with suites above it and like a big tower.
I think they'll sell those out. Okay.
I think those are going to be sold out too.
Awesome.
And then, of course, you got the infield, but it's not as big of an infield as some other tracks. So you're going to notice it. I'm telling you, when you see this race on Sunday, you're going to notice the stands are packed, and it's going to be very energetic. Looks like the weather as of now looks pretty good, not too hot. So definitely a big event for this track.
Well, we keep our fingers crossed that with the new car, most of these races have been excellent. And before we wrap up what happened on Sunday night, I know it's been, it's Memorial Day weekend, and you were at the Indy 500, so you didn't have time. So unless somehow you did, but I had the opportunity to go see Top Gun Maverick, and I just wanted to bring that up because I wanted to look at this. Look at this.
Look at that.
This was my personal driver's license plate. I had a Mustang, one of those really fast cars when I was young, probably too fast when I was too young. And so I was a hot Top Gun fan. I couldn't get Top Gun, but I said, well, this is pretty good, and it worked. When you write in your choices, and I said, wow, I actually got this. So yeah. So this is how much I was into Top Gun, and Top Gun was awesome. The new movie that came out.
I say, was it good? I want to see it. I watched the old one the other night when I was finishing stuff up. I'm not sure. It was maybe Thursday night. It was on like AMC or something. I didn't even get to watch the whole thing because I was so busy. But Top Gun, the new one's definitely one that
you have to see it in the movie theater. That's the thing. And that's why, look, it meant more to me because I had the opportunity to watch it in a movie theater when it came out, because I was a teenager back then. So it was like the biggest thing that you could want for a young
Yep.
kid that's just, breaking out into, I wouldn't necessarily say manhood, but, just everything regarding the movie, the speed and, the sex appeal and everything was just awesome. And then seeing it in the movie theater back then was even great. And now it's just a tremendous experience being able to see it with the technology that they have today, especially, the limited green screen. And I just can't imagine being in one of those jets. That would just be the highlight of your life if you can actually get in
Oh
one of
yeah.
those. So
So what was I? So I didn't pay a whole lot of attention. Miles Teller, which character was he?
he's playing Goose's son.
Okay,
Okay.
so he was the out at the 500. So I just was so in my own
Oh
world.
yeah.
I knew he was there, but I didn't know what character. I knew he had to be a good character. The fact they wouldn't have brought him in, I was thinking they might have been like Tom Cruise or something in, but they said him and he's in Top Gun, and I'm like, he's got to be a main character in
Yes.
this movie, so he's Goose's son. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So yeah, it was really awesome. And again, but you have to see it in the movie theater. I mean,
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not a good movie it won't be a good movie on television, but if you miss it in the movie theater, you're missing half of the joy and the experience of it. So after the Indianapolis 500 came the Coke 600, and we talked last week about how you can get into one of these races with the old car and the old setup, and it could be a domination from
Yep.
somebody sets it up perfectly, and it's a snooze fest, and you can turn it off sometimes if you wanted to because it's late, it's been a long day, you've watched 3 or 4 series that day, and now you've had enough because so and so's dominating. But that was not the case in any way, shape, or form on Sunday night's race. Once again, great job. The combination of this new car with the track, it just looks, to me, it actually looked like they were racing at a completely different racetrack. Like
Yeah.
sometimes I was going, is this Charlotte? It just didn't even feel like Charlotte to me. But it was exciting. Look, I'm not so sure the fastest car won, probably not, but it was the kind of racing that you look forward to because it almost played out like a super speedway. It almost played out like we were just watching the end of a Daytona race or a Talladega race where the last man was standing.
Yeah, it looked exact. I mean, even to use a Top Gun reference, you had its car get upside down. I
Yeah.
mean, and it looked, it did kind of have that Daytona Talladega feel where in the past, going like you just talked about, going this race, the first 50, 60, 70 laps, all right, this guy's probably going to win. This is over. I could turn it off for 2 hours and come back, and it's going to be the same guy probably leading. Not this one. You didn't know until really the last lap who's actually going to win. There's so many comers and goers, and I think Larson went to the front, to the back again, and back and forth like 7
Yeah, I can't
times.
even
I mean,
believe Larson, he was that close to winning this race.
yeah, I rode him off in the 3 hours long of traffic that I sat in trying to get home from the speedway and listening to it. I'm like, how many times is this guy going to mess up on pit road, and how many tire issues, and what's going on, to find out like how's he back up there again, and then now he's back in the back, and look who's back up there again. It just, this whole package, it goes to show. I don't know, not to put more salt in the wound of the Texas, but it's like these tracks are similar, and this one it works. Texas was just awful. So it goes to show this new car on the intermediate package works if it's not at Texas. Because Charlotte, this is the best, I think, oval. I know we got to separate the oval and roval. The oval event at Charlotte is the best one they've had in years. I can't think of the last good one that we saw to where it kind of kept you engaged. Granted, it was really long, a 4 hour
Yeah, it
race. I
was. It
still
was
think
a
it's
little
too
long.
long.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder if that race was 400 miles in length, how much action packed it would have been if he took 200 miles off of it, because it was action packed for 600 miles. What happens if it was 200 miles less? So I thought it was a great race. Another win for this car, because that's the common denominator I think we're getting to now after we're now more than halfway through the regular season. And we keep talking about this was improved and this was improved and this was improved. It's got to be the car. I think the car is
Without
still
a doubt.
producing this, which leads you to segueing into this week. Who knows who's going to win? There's nothing you can make. And I just saw your email. As far as handicapping, I just kind of basically use Darlington in a sense and short tracks, because this will kind of have the short track feel. And it's kind of built like Darlington where there's two separate ends, but you really don't know. I mean, I really feel like it's another wide open race. And in years past, when are you going to get to the 14th, 15th race of the season and say, I don't know. I don't know who's going to win. But that's where we are. And I feel like the 600 with Denny Hamlin winning, it's who would have thought that? I mean, he gets his marquee race win again, but it's like you got a guy that I think the only top fives he's got on the season is wins. It's just
he had the fourth at Kansas.
Fourth at Kansas, that's right. And that's it. And it's so unpredictable. Yeah. So that's what we want. That's what we want. That's why we're getting the odds that we get still. I mean, but 8-1 as a favorite for this race.
That's like Daytona.
It is, and for a quote unquote like short track thing. So no, I like it. Bring it on still.
Yeah, and by the way, with our fantasy play going into the drop in the Coke 600, we had our triple points race. We only have two of those. One was Daytona, and one was the Coke 600. And you have Denny Ham on your team. So you were the recipient of 300 points. Normally that would have been 100. And I was still able to win the week, though, because I was fortunate enough to pick the best week that even though I didn't finish first or second, I finished third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh.
And 10.
And 10.
6 of your 7. Yeah, 6 of your 7 are in the top 10.
Yes.
You can't get much better than that.
With all those additional points. And that pushed me ahead of CJ. And you're now on CJ's tail.
It's you and I, and it's I put in our report that's up on racepreviewonline.net right now, put up last night, is since the last month, both of our teams have really got hot. And then CJ's have gone the opposite. CJ's team's like my team was for like the first month. Now his gone way down. And then me and you are just getting all the top 5s and top 10s. And it's, now you got like 300, and I got it right here, 315 point lead now. And then I'm right there with CJ. So
and there's no more triple points racing. And the points really don't go up until the playoffs. So, and look, I honestly don't I don't believe I have the best team. Matter of fact, I still think CJ probably has the best team. If you look at it overall. To have Elliott and Kyle Busch and Byron and Truex, I think that's really strong. And then to have like your Austin Dillon as your supposedly your bottom driver group is pretty strong. But CJ was able to take a big lead on us because of his Cindric winning the Daytona 500 with the initial 300-point race. And so we have finally caught up to him and surpassed him almost completely, both of us. So it might take him a little while to catch up to us, but I also think the fact is that this is also indicative of the parity in the sport right now, is that we're now going up and down and all over the place in the standings with completely different drivers every week.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 6 wins and I'm last. But it's like, and then my team, it's like it took one. That's why I kept. The move you and I made was patient with it. It's like I see it coming. It's eventually going to get hot. Like Hamlin, we talked about last week or the week before. Can't remember. It was the All-Star week that eventually we felt like he was going to turn it around. Chastain, we've noticed. I think he's here to stay.
He's here to stay.
And Logano, I think, is one that he always does. You get in the playoffs, all of a sudden he turns it around. And then with Kyle Larson now, I don't even have a win out of him yet. He's only got 1 win all year. And he's just banging on the door. Yeah. He's right there. I mean, you look at recently, I mean, you got to go since Richmond, 5th, 19th, 4th, 4th, 6th, 36th at Darlington, but he was running good before that, 2nd, 9th. So he's right there. It's just, it's a matter of time for him too. So I feel really good about my team. It's like every week we talk about drops and waivers, and it's like out of my team, the weak link, I think, is Almirola, but he's my 4th highest scorer right now. It's like you don't drop your 4th highest scorer. And then Suarez, I feel like eventually.
I mean, another bad luck situation for Suarez. I mean, he looked like he was actually the fastest car on Sunday.
He did.
And it's amazing how often they just keep getting involved in situations.
You got to feel good about Trackhouse right now. The fact for a while, him and Chastain were 1-2 in that race. You would never know that this team was just founded last year, and this is the 2nd year of them. And first year they expanded to 2 full-time teams, and they're out here running with the big boys. So again, credit the new car. I kept thinking eventually the big teams will catch up and
Sure.
they'll fall down a pecking order a little bit, but they'll settle in like a 10th to 15th place cars every like they'll like which should be solid for a second year team. But I was wrong. I mean, they're the 600 a marquee event. They're right there battling for the win, battling for lap sled, battling for stage wins, which that's all you can ask for.
Well,
And 2311 getting a win a few weeks ago. So the new teams are they're really coming on strong.
I'm looking over our futures, and I'm the only one. I'm surprised about this at this point. I'm still the only one who have put money on Cindric, Chastain, Briscoe, and Reddick, and Christopher Bell, I think. And I just, and I usually do that at the beginning of the season. Anyway. All right, especially this season. All right, let's see. And just, I said I have to put more money on Chastain. I know it's 8-1. It's not a figure I like with Chastain, but he's not going away. And I might as well continue to do that. And I figured, you know what? Briscoe had a good race yesterday. What if he gets hot? I can get him at almost 20-1 right now. And then Reddick, he's also showing that ability. And we know Christopher Bell by now has done everything but win. So I know it's hard to believe that one of those guys will win a championship. I completely still get that. But the longer we go, the better the chances are it could happen. That one of those drivers could be in the Final Four.
Yeah, and you got to think, Briscoe won Phoenix.
Yeah, there you go.
Championship. It's so unpredictable. That's what my brain goes like. Are those guys really going to win the championship? So I just look aside. But here we are, literally midway through the regular season. Like we just crossed over that threshold. This is the 14th race, and somebody asked you who's the championship favorite. I don't have one, which puts to the case for those guys because you literally can't name one. I mean, if you look at the top of the points right now, just the overall points, Chase Elliott, he's got one win all year. His last two finishes are 29th and 33rd. Ross Chastain, second in points. His last three finishes are 30th, 7th, 15th. Blaney's fourth. You look at his last five finishes, 11th, 26th,
no top
17th, 12th, 29th. Yeah. It's just like, it's wide open. This is the first year I could think of, which is just so weird, baffling to think about, that we don't even talk about the point standings.
Too early.
It's just because there's no rhyme. Yeah, there's no rhyme. It used to be we would, by this point, Kyle Busch's, your Martin Truex Jr.'s, your Kevin Harvick.
There's a top three or a top four battling it out.
They would separate themselves, and we're talking kind of about points because you could kind of, guys get hot and they stay hot. This year, I don't know if we've ever even mentioned the point standings. No. And in the past we have, but it's like it just goes to show you this playoff format. And I don't know if it's come perfect storm because the parity or of all these years we figured it out that we don't need to talk about points, but they just couldn't feel more relevant to me right now. Like, I bet if you poll most people in the NASCAR garage, the media, fans, hey, I'll give you $50 if you can tell me who's leading just the point standings for the season, who's number one. If I didn't look, I'd have no idea if Chase Elliott's number one.
No,
I would probably.
No way.
I don't know if you gave me 5 guesses. I don't know if I'd guess him, and I don't think I'd guess Ross Chastain was second. It's like, so that's what, to make your point. I think that's why, you can look at some of these guys and look like, hey, who's to say somebody's not? I mean, Chris Buescher, until he flipped, wasn't running terrible, and he's 21st in points. What if he gets hot and finds a win?
Look at Michael McDowell. He has 5 top 10s in his last 6. 7.
Yeah. Or 4 in the last 6. Yeah. And then Stenhouse, 24th in points, 2nd, 8th, 8th, 7th, his last 4. So as we thought going into this by mid-regular season, the big teams we thought would probably start. You're going to start seeing the Hendricks and the Stuart Haas and the Finn.
It's not going to happen.
I think now that we said, that's probably not going to happen because these smaller teams are getting stronger.
Well, look at Larson. He's ninth.
Yeah.
There's no way that he can get that hot for that long to go from 9th to, say, 1st or 2nd. I mean, it would just be impossible in this type of climate for him to do that. That he would have to win like 3 races and 4 and go like with 7 straight top 5s. And this season, I just don't see it.
No, and he's beat Chase Elliott head to head for the last 6 races. Like, he's still 9th in points and Elliott's 1st. Yeah. Stage points are really separating these people. And I think they're starting to figure this game
And
out.
look at
And
William Byron. All of a sudden, he hasn't had a top 10 in his last 6.
no, and he hasn't finished since he won at Martinsville. He has not finished better than 13th in the last 6 races, and he's going backwards. But oddly enough, he's one of my picks this weekend, even despite all that, because it's like I just don't think there's any rhyme or reason for the season. Right now, it's like there'd be absolutely no reason if you look at what he's done going to a track with no past history for the Cup cars that you think William Byron's going to have any shot in this thing. But if you look at short tracks, Darlington, and even past truck races at this track, he's done good. So I wouldn't be shocked if, despite having no finish better than 13th, really since Easter, that he's going to win. But that would be the microcosm of the season so far. That is the point. It doesn't have any rhyme or reason what you did last week or a month ago. It just every week's a new week.
Yeah, it's almost like handicapping the dirt race this week. You know,
pretty much. Yep, it's just a guess.
Yeah, we don't know. That's why I asked you. That's what you were referencing the email. I was like, I was about to go over my picks, and I'm like, I didn't even know how to make these picks. And I figured, you know what? I'm not making the picks. I'm not this big expert. You guys are. I'm gonna use this show this week as an opportunity for me to pick your brain so I can understand how I should make my picks, just the way we normally do on a weekly basis to the viewers out there. So I'm basically going to be the viewer trying to figure this out. So you guys referenced it, talking about past Xfinity and truck race experience at the track. So you look here, and I'm just talking about winners. Overall, Kevin Harvick has 3 wins at the racetrack, 2 in the Xfinity Series and 1 truck. Truex has 1, Kyle Busch has 1, Keselowski has 1, as far as the big drivers, the big names. And then you've got Wallace, Custer, Christopher Bell, Justin Haley, and Ross Chastain all have wins in the truck series on this racetrack. So those are just wins. But you mentioned Byron has done pretty well. So let's go through the drivers then, because you and CJ both went with Larson and Kyle.
Yep.
And why did you do that?
Well, Kyle, because he's had good success there in past series. 3rd and 2nd, the last 2 points paying races on the season. So if you go 3, 2, 1 would be next way up. He knows the track. He could go off of past, because like the truck series raced there like last year, even with the IndyCar weekend, they've always raced there with him. So he's got a truck series team. So he's got a lot of data in his pocket that he could use. And then for Kyle Larson, was only mainly for the fact, which I want to bring this up too, the best win in Gateway. It just seems like if you look at the Xfinity Series, you got Dale Jr., Kevin Harvick, Truex, Kyle, Keselowski, Carl Edwards. They won there. You look at IndyCar, since they started going there in the 90s and they had a long break and they get revitalized. But here's the list of their winners. Paul Tracy, Alex Zanardi, Juan Pablo Montoya, Michael Andretti, Alan Jr., Gilles de Ferran, Elio Castroneves, Joseph Newgarden, Scott Dixon, Will Power, Takuma Sato. All greats. All guys that if there's a Hall of Fame in IndyCar, like those guys are going in it. So to me, it's like the best win there. It just, I don't know why, but the best drivers seem to win this track. So wouldn't it make sense that Kyle Larson is arguably one of the best in NASCAR to win the Inaugural Cup race?
Yeah.
Because I don't think, if you look at Phoenix, Martinsville, and even Darlington this year, he struggled. But I just go back to the fact that the best win at Gateway, so I put Larson in there.
Okay.
Because there's really no rhyme or reason to pick him, because he was a DNF at Darlington. And Phoenix and Martinsville, he really wasn't much of a factor. So
Kyle, actually, what happened to Kyle at Darlington? That's when he got hit, right? That's when he was. Yeah. He actually could have won that race.
Yeah, he wrecked. Yeah. So, but there's just not a lot. There's not a lot of reason to take him at 8-1. But he's still 8-1, not 4-1.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So that's why I took him.
Okay.
Or I almost punted on him, but again, mine kept going back. If he wins, I'm like, well, you fool! It's sitting right in front of you. The best drivers win at this track, and he got one at 8-1. Why would you not take him? So that's the whole reason I took him.
Now the next 3 at 9-1, you didn't take any of them. DJ only took Truex, Blaney, Hamlin, Truex. So out of those 3, who would you have taken?
Probably Hamlin. Only the fact that I feel like he's like we talked about last
He
week.
may be ready to
Earlier.
get hot now.
He's starting to get hot now. Fourth, first, last two finishes, he seems like he's figuring it out. Blaney's just struggling. I think he just needs a top 10. I feel like Fords are down a little bit again. And Truex, I just don't. He hasn't finished better than fourth
Truex
all
is
year.
hard to. Yeah.
I mean, if you go back to that Martinsville race, he's only got two top 10s.
He's got two top fives on the year.
Yeah, total. I just don't feel like he's ready to win yet. And I know he kind of said around this weekend he was going to make his decision on his future. So we'll see if we get any news this week. I know there's some news coming on the IndyCar side on Friday. That might send a little bit of shockwaves. But on the NASCAR side, I'm curious if Truex makes his move known this weekend because, like we talked about, I think last week too or the weekend before, I feel like until Truex makes a decision whether he's going to do – is he going to retire or is he going to re-up for another year or two? I just feel like this is what we're going to get. And he doesn't seem like a driver ready to win a race yet. That's why I'd probably say out of that group, Hamlin's the one that does.
Why would they put Truex? Why would because just looking at the last few weeks, Blaney and Truex have been more like 10 to 12 to 1. Why do you think they're 9 to 1?
I don't know if it's just because of the lack of they needed some drivers up there in that, and they just wondered if like Truex has Xfinity Series history. I don't know. I don't get the rhyme or reason why those.
I mean, CJ picked Truex out of the three.
Yeah, I don't know why, but again, he's done that in the past, and he hit a winner on those. But I don't know. There's unless Truex was like 20 to 1, 18 to 1. I'm just going to punt on him until I see something. I just don't see something out of him yet. And Blaney's same way. It's like, yeah, he won the All-Star race, but there's nothing from the All-Star race, like we talked about, that you could translate over to Charlotte, which it proved you couldn't. And with the guy's got 11th, 26th, 17th, 12th, 29th, his last 5 points-paying races, I don't know how you put him at 9 to 1. That just seemed a little steep to me. So that's why I punted on all three.
What about manufacturer? Is there any way to figure out, hey, Chevy or Ford or Toyota should be better at this track or should struggle at this track?
I don't think we know yet. I would say based on speed, it seems like Vegas is starting to figure out Ford doesn't have it still. Because I heard on NASCAR radio this morning driving in that they were talking about that for the 600, the odds for manufacturer win, like Chevy was like plus 115, Toyota was like plus 125, and Ford was like plus 400 or something. Like they're basically telling you they've even figured out Fords are off a little bit. This track, we haven't been here yet on the Cup side, and it's a new car. I don't know how you know, but I'd say if you base off of just past stuff, I don't think Ford would be as much of a deficit because this isn't a speed track. It's more of it's a shorter track, so you're not going to be on throttle as much. So
who did well at Darlington?
Well, Ford won with Logano. So I think they didn't look terrible at Darlington. Okay. Ford won at Phoenix with Briscoe. So that's why I struggle to say Ford's going to be at a huge deficit this weekend because I just don't know how you'd know. And if you look at the short tracks, Ford didn't look terrible on them. So I haven't seen the odds yet for manufacturer win, but it might be one of Ford's like plus 300 or 400. You might want to just throw a couple bucks that way just to see it because you get the whole Ford manufacturer camp at that point. But I don't feel like they're, especially when we just talked about McDowell. I mean, Front Row Motorsports with 4 top 10s in his last 6 that they're that far behind. I mean, when that team's figured out, what's up with the rest? I think it's just a byproduct of some of the tracks, and some of these drivers just weren't necessarily great at those tracks too. So, but I don't think it's too. I think it's too soon to tell. Yeah, I don't. Be the only one I trust in that. But do you really feel like a guy with 3 top 5s all season is going to win 2 straight races? That's why I struggle to pick him this week.
Byron Elliott, you went with Byron. So did CJ. CJ also went with Elliott. They're both at 10 to 1. And so why did you go Byron over Elliott?
Well, Byron won at Martinsville, and this track is bigger, don't get me wrong, than Martinsville. But it's kind of similar. You got long straightaways and sweeping corners. So Byron won. And then you look at Darlington, probably should have won if Logano didn't put him into the wall at the end. So the two light tracks so far this season, Byron, I'm going to say, was leading with 2 to go in both those races, and you're getting him at 10-1, and he's got past history at Gateway in the Truck Series. So I looked at that and like, for 10-1, I'll take him. Elliott, meanwhile, on the short track package, 11th in Phoenix, 14th at Richmond, 10th in Martinsville. He was 5th at Darlington, but really wasn't much of a factor. So I thought 10-1 was a little steep for him, knowing that if you use light tracks, he wasn't a factor in those. And he didn't really run much Truck Series action where he has much history at this track either. So I thought out of the two 10-1 guys, Byron, to me, felt like the safer bet.
Okay. The next three at 12-1, Bell, Chastain, and Reddick. You put money on both Bell and Chastain. CJ went with Chastain and Reddick. And as we said, Bell is on a nice run. He has, 7 top 7s in his last 9. And that includes, 4 or 5 top 5s. So he's getting close. The only thing Bell's not doing is leading laps. He's not doing that yet. And that's what's left. Reddick, he seems to be getting closer. Also won the Xfinity Series race. We talked about that last week. And Chastain has just been, it's like every week, Chastain's, trying to battle for a win, it seems. So why not go with him?
Exactly. That's why Bell and Chastain, they've won at this track before. And like you said, Bell's finish has been great. He's got 4 straight top 6s. His numbers are starting to reflect where he's been. Because remember, a few weeks ago, he's like 25-1, 22-1, now 12-1. So he's starting to. I think they're starting to take notice, and he's 1 win away from really, I think, putting his name as honestly a guy that we could talk about. Dare I say, championship contender? He's as hot as anybody.
25-1 to win the championship
with 4 straight top 6s. So the guy probably to start throwing money his way. Now that I say that, I probably should in the futures. And then Chastain.
But by the way, just to show you how crazy the season is, remember, you dropped Bell on your team.
Yeah.
But you picked up Chastain.
Yeah, it's and if I would have dropped Almirola and kept Bell and had Chastain, I think I'd be even further up. But at that time, Almirola was doing great to start the year, and Bell wasn't. And now Bell, it's like, oh, where'd he come from? Now I almost feel like he could stay there, because if you remember last year, these tracks coming up, he got hot at. Remember, Road America, he was good. Loudon, he was good. I mean, we got Atlanta. So we got some good tracks for him coming up that I feel like this might be a stretch for Christopher Bell. Dare I say, maybe starts becoming – he's got to win and could become a household name. He could win multiple times. And then you look at Chastain, who was 2nd in Phoenix. He dominated at Darlington before he wrecked in the surface. Remember I said it changed between the new patch and the old asphalt, and he spun. He has 3 top 7s in the last 5 points pain races. He won at Gateway in the past. You get them for those odds. So it's like, out of those drivers, you kind of had to take both. I feel like both are on the same trajectory right now, and both have won at Gateway, and both have looked strong on the season. So I'd almost be shocked if neither of them came out with the top 5. And with the way the season's gone, you could get a final restart with both of them on the front row.
16-1, Harvick and Logano. CJ went with Harvick. You went with Logano. Matter of fact, Logano, he was one of your top picks.
Yeah, you got to think.
Oh, I know why you went with Logano. Because you go with Logano whenever you go to a new racetrack.
There you go. Out of the last 6 inaugural races, he's won 2 of them. But to go further, I should have mentioned this about the Hendrick guys. Out of the last 7 inaugural races, you want to go that far, Hendrick's won 4 of them. This is dating back since 2020 in the pandemic. However, on 4 of them, 3 of them on road courses, and only 1 on an oval. Logano has won 2 of the last 3 inaugural races on ovals. So you get him at 16-1. He's won on the football stadium, and he's won on Bristol dirt. And he keeps getting longer odds for these. 16-1. Like, he keeps winning money for me on these inaugural ovals. So I went with him. And you look at who won Darlington. Logano. Who was 2nd at Martinsville. Logano. So if I took Byron based off that, I feel like I need to go Logano based off that. So for 16-1, I thought that was almost a steal. Now, granted, you could come to these tracks and they could be not similar in any shape or form. But with trying to take what we know, 16-1 for a Penske driver.
Okay.
To me, I thought he should have been 9-1 and Blaney more 16-1. But that's neither here nor there. We'll take a past champion at 16-1 that could figure this racetrack out.
All right. CJ went with Bowman at 18-1. None of you guys went with Briscoe at 25-1. And then we also have Almirola and Kurt Busch at 30-1. So you put a little bit of money on Kurt Busch. So out of those three, CJ went with Bowman and you went with Kurt Busch.
Yeah, Kurt, he was 5th in Phoenix, 6th in Martinsville. He seems to start to get faster again. He won at Kansas. And you look at Bowman, 14th at Phoenix, 12th in Martinsville, 29th in Darlington. If you take like tracks, these aren't strong tracks for him. So I mentioned that stat about Hendrick. So I felt Kurt, now that they're finally starting to find their groove, inaugural race, veteran driver, could figure this out quicker. That's why I went Kurt Busch.
All right.
30-1. You're almost getting double the odds.
40-1, Cindric and Suarez. And nobody went with Suarez or Cindric. I'm surprised about that. I would take Suarez. Nobody took Suarez.
I just didn't feel, again, all this bad luck that these other drivers that know this track, whether he could. Cindric was intriguing. I almost did. He's got some Truck Series experience there too, but I just felt on the season he's just dropping. I mean, he hasn't had a top 10 since Circuit of the Americas, and the only other top 10 of the season was the Daytona 500. Granted, he could win this Sunday because that seems how the season's gone. But 2 top 10s all year, I just didn't trust it. And Suarez with his bad luck, I mean, he hasn't had a top 5 since Atlanta. So I punted on both of those.
Yeah, I don't know why I thought one of you guys did take Suarez, but I think I was confusing. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, I did miss it. It was CJ took Suarez. I knew somebody took Suarez. So CJ took Suarez, and I'll probably put a few bucks on him as well. Okay. Next, we have the 60-1 shots. Dylan Jones, Kozlowski, and Wallace. And out of that group, the only one to go down is Dylan. You went with Dylan. You're taking Dylan every week. And Dylan with the big move. I thought Dylan was going to win there for a second. I was like, whoa, where did that come from?
I was getting real excited. I'm like, whoa, this is going to get some good money here. But, yeah.
And Custer was pretty close, too. You're $600 on Custer.
Yeah, he was there.
That could have changed your season.
That could have changed it dramatically. I just feel like Dylan, just 60-1 just seems long for him. He was 3rd in Martinsville. He had a top 10 going to Phoenix before I think Suarez and him wrecked with like a lap or 2 to go. And then he was 9th in Darlington. So he's kind of good on tracks like this. He's raced here in the Truck Series. RCR has Xfinity Series here passed. So I just felt like 60-1 is worth a flyer. He can win some money for somebody that far back.
Okay.
Kozlowski was intriguing. I almost took him. I mean, you're getting a guy that had a truck team that was good at Gateway with his truck team in the past, but I just don't feel like still he's
30th in points.
Yeah, he's struggled back again lately. He got like a lot of top, like he's around 15th for a while, and it's like, okay, he's starting to figure this out. And then since he was 11th in Bristol on dirt, since then 23rd, 20th, 34th, 14th, 30th. So I don't feel like if he's going to win, it's going to be this week.
And then Stenhouse at 75-1, and both you guys put a little money on him. I will too, and why not? Because of the fact that, like you mentioned before, he's got 4 straight top 10s.
Yeah, I mean he's right there, 2nd, 8th, 8th, 7th. I mean even Charlotte, he's right there again. So it's kind of showing that it doesn't matter the week because you got to look at this finishes: Dover, Darlington, Kansas, Charlotte. It's kind of all over the place, and he's still top 10. So. Gateway and inaugural race, why not? Remember last year, inaugural race in Nashville, he was right there in the hunt to win that one. So worth 75-1, definitely a few bucks his way will make you some money.
And then Custer, you're going down that road again at 200-1.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. Again, he's at Gateway, if I'm not mistaken, I have to look. He won there in the Truck Series race. So, and you're getting him at 200-1. Hey, 2015, he won. So
why not?
Why not for 200-1? Because you throw $3 his way, you make 600. You throw 2, you make 400. Yeah. Why not for those odds? definitely worth it. I don't know why they keep putting him that far back. Like, it seems disrespectful to me.
I
Like,
know.
you could have him at 100-1, but like you get the 200, 300-1 range. It's like they're basically telling him that he shouldn't be a Cup driver at that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
500-1, you have Justin Haley, who's got a win on this racetrack, and the hot McDowell.
Yeah, that shocked me. They were that far back, and I almost went that way, but are they really going to win as 500-1 away from a super speedway? They might get top tens, but I put what I would have wagered on them up at the top. Like, I'll just go a couple more dollars the Kyle's way and see if I can get a little bit more bang for my buck there.
All right. Well, I have a pretty good. I've circled all of the drivers that I'm going to have to strategically put my money on. So now I know who I'm going to pick this week. I just have to make sure I can fit it all into our $100 weekly budget. And next week, it's on to road course racing at Sonoma. So
back to wine country. And that race, again, they're moving back to the old layout because they're running the loop, the 2.52 mile, the inner loop. Now, not the inner loop, I forget, carousel. They had a word for it. They got all these terms for this road course. Running it. Now they took it back out. Now it's back to the short course.
Why?
So I think because they realized that longer track didn't help.
Oh.
It was just a longer lap. And let's just shorten it again. Let's go back.
Does that mean
to the old
less
way.
carousel talking?
I think so.
Good.
We're back to the 1.9 miles instead of like 2.25
yes.
or 2.52. So it's a little bit shorter. We're back to the way it was. I think that was 2019, 2018. They ran this way, and then they went back to the longer way. Now they realized, hey, that didn't work either. Let's go back. So new car, old trot style. How much are you going to be able to handicap based off that? Probably nothing. So
well, what do we only had one road course so far this year, right?
Coda. Yep. So there's nothing. You can't really compare these two tracks.
Okay.
So really this stretch, you've got inaugural race at Gateway. You've got Sonoma, which you're going back to the old way. And then you got a week off finally. Then you come back with Nashville, the second annual race there. Then you go to Road America, the second annual race there. So on the next 4 races, 3 of them are either the first or second time we've been to that track. So
it'd be crazy
for the Cup. So we may not be out of the woods of new winners.
No.
This could definitely. I mean, you got to remember too. 2 of the next 4 in road courses. Michael McDowell is great. He's a road racer by nature, and he's got 4 top 10s his last 6. We keep talking about that. Maybe he finds a win in the next month, and he doesn't need a super speedway. Now you're really going to start getting to that line of, all right, well, does Kurt Busch and Austin Cindric and McDowell have their own little points battle because the regular season champion gets 1 playoff spot already. Doesn't matter if they won or not, which granted this year, I unless Ryan Blaney somehow catches Chase Elliott and doesn't win a race, I think that's a moot point. But Ryan Blaney's 4th in points. If he doesn't win and we get 16, 17 winners, he's not going to make the playoffs. And how about this? Austin Cindric, when he won the Daytona 500, we talked about, he stamped his name in. Well, again, if he gets 17 winners, Kurt Busch is 1 spot behind him in points. And let me look at it. Right now, the 2 are separated by 5 points. If Kurt Busch finishes ahead of Austin Cindric, he gets in, Austin Cindric's out. So you might now start having a points race between these guys back there. Because you want to be, it's the top in points among the 16 winners. Let's say you get 17 winners. It's the top 16 in points. So even if you have a win, but you're 17th, you're not going to get in the playoffs. And I think we're starting to enter that territory now, aren't we? If you start looking at that.
If we get those crazy wins in the next month, yes.
Yep. I feel like, because how many do we got now? 10? 11? Hold on, I can add this. I think we got 11 different winners right now. So there's 5 spots open, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You got 12 races left in the regular season. All you need is 5. Dare I say 6 winners will get you to 17.
Happen.
and you've got Daytona still in this. You got Watkins Glen, Indy, Road America, Sonoma. You got 4 road courses and Daytona among this group, plus Atlanta, who ran like one. So yeah, we could get there. We could still get there. That would make Daytona crazier
Wouldn't
to
it?
close this
Yeah.
regular season out.
Especially Daytona of all races. Yeah. Anybody can win.
You might. Yeah, that would really shake things up. Then your points racing in that too. So that, you know what, that might make Daytona even interesting because you got a points race and a battle to win too.
We hope so.
That should make it fun.
It's been fun so far, so I don't think anything's going to change. We hope not. And by the way, you said we didn't have a week off. We had a week off a couple weeks ago with the All-Star. That was a week off.
Well, true. Yeah, that kind of was a We should start taking that as a week off.
But it really is. Yeah. Okay, so again, check out racereviewonline.net for all of the additional information to preview the race coming up here in Illinois. And also, do you have an IndyCar race to handicap this week on the site?
Yeah, Belle Isle, Sunday. They're back at it again. Like those poor guys.
Yeah, you would think this would be that with all the days off, all the weeks off they've had. You think a perfect week off would be after the Indianapolis 500.
Grilling stretch and turning cars from road course to go straight to a street course race. Yeah, this is, and then they got to go again the weekend after at Road America before getting some relief. So they've got some races coming up, and then finally, but as weird as it sounds, you're going to get to July 4th, and then their season's going to be over halfway over in the home stretch. So, but we're almost there.
All right, check that out. You can you still have all of your info on the big Marcus Ericsson win, so that's available at racereviewonline.net as well. So, Eric, great job as always. Appreciate your time, and we will talk to you again next Tuesday.
Sounds good.